Hello and welcome back to Larissa's Kitchen. Tonight we're traveling to Italy for a traditional meal of polenta with sausage and sugo sauce and a side of potatoes and artichokes. Okay, this meal consists of 4 different parts and we're going to have to do them in order. First, we need to start with our sugo sauce. Now this is just a very simple marinara. We're going to need 28 ounces of San Marzanos. Now normally I like the Cento brand, but the grocery store was out of Cento, so I got to give this Flora a try. I'll let you know how it turns out. We're also going to need 1 small onion, very finely minced, along with 4 to 5 cloves of garlic. This is a half of a teaspoon of ground pepper, a tablespoon of dried thyme, and a tablespoon of dried tarragon. This is also a half teaspoon of kosher salt. Now we're just going to get this going in a saucepan, and then this is going to simmer until everything else is ready to go. Okay, I've got my 3-quart saucepan on over about medium heat, and that's about 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. The first thing we're going to do is sweat the onions and the garlic for a few minutes. Okay, these garlic and onions are starting to soften and it smells really good, so we're going to go ahead and put our spices in. And just give those a quick whirl around the pan. Okay, and now the tomatoes. Alright, these San Marzanos will break down into very small pieces while this simmers, so we don't have to worry about cutting these up or smashing these before we put them in. Okay, this sugo sauce is just going to simmer uncovered for the rest of the time that we'll be making this meal. So next up, we have the polenta. The ingredients for polenta are fantastically simple. 4½ cups of cold water, 1½ cups of cornmeal, and a half teaspoon of salt. The most difficult thing is preparing your pan. Now I've got a 9 by 9 inch cake pan that I've lined with non-stick aluminum foil. That's all we have to do. So we're going to get this in our saucepan and get over to the stove. Okay, let's just make sure nothing is burning on the bottom here. Alright. Okay, there is absolutely no need to buy polenta. It is so simple to make. And what's even easier is you can put all of your ingredients together in the pan before you even turn anything on. That way you don't have to worry about your cornmeal forming lumps. You don't have to try to figure out how to evenly sift it in while your water is boiling and potentially giving you steam burns. Now we will have to be stirring the whole time, but that's about the extent of it. Okay, you can really make any hot grain cereal this way, from cornmeal mush and polenta to oatmeal and cream of wheat and grits. You just combine everything in the pan before you turn the heat on. That way you really do not have to worry about any lumps. Works perfectly. Okay, this polenta is just starting to bubble, so we need to continue to stir this, and we're going to stir it until it starts to pull away from the side of the pan. Okay, this looks like it's about done here. It looks significantly drier than when we started out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this over, get it into our pan, and then we're going to let this set up and come to room temperature while we finish the rest of this meal. Just don't pour this on the cat. Okay, get this smoothed into an even layer, and then this can just sit. Okay, we need to move on to the potatoes and artichoke hearts. Now, I've got 1.5 pounds of new potatoes, and I've given them 1 peel just around the equator, and then the larger ones we've cut into quarters. The smaller ones I've cut in half, and I've got one really tiny one that's completely left whole. This is in 2 cups of chicken broth with enough water to cover this so that it can boil fine. The rest of this is going to end up in the skillet. Okay, we need to start with about 2 to 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, and we're going to sweat 1 medium onion that's been very thinly sliced in it. I've also got about 1 pound of artichoke hearts that I have diced kind of big so that they are easier to eat. This is about 2/3 of a cup of Kalamata olives. We're going to need some salt and fresh cracked black pepper. This is 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and we're going to need about 1 tablespoon of these capers. Now, I do like the capote capers better because they're just a little bit bigger than the nonpareils. Okay, we're just giving this sugo sauce a stir to make sure that nothing is burning on the bottom. Okay, we're going to let these potatoes simmer until they're tender enough that you can poke a fork all the way through them. After that, we're just going to go ahead and drain them and set them aside. Then we're actually going to be starting in with the sausage. Okay, the sausage is very simple. All we need for that are 3 lengths of mild Italian sausage with the casings removed, and then this is 1 medium onion sliced very thinly. Okay, we're getting started with the sausage and the onions here. So we're just going to brown this sausage and then eventually add the onions. Now, normally I would do this along with finishing up the potatoes and the artichokes, but I can't use that burner over there because my cameraman's legs are in the way. All right, making sure this is not burned on the bottom. Okay, this is cooked all the way through, so we're just going to go ahead and add these onions and let these soften. Okay, the sausage is browned and these onions are very nicely sweated down. So now we finally get to use the sugo. Okay, carefully pour that in here. Okay, now we are going to let this simmer the whole time that we're cooking the potatoes. Okay, now we're getting ready to finish these potatoes. So we need to start with about 3 tablespoons of olive oil in this pan, and I've got it on over medium-high heat. Once this heats up, we're going to put in the onions. All right, and now we're going to add about a teaspoon of salt and about 1/2 teaspoon of fresh cracked black pepper. Okay, once these onions have softened up, we want to go ahead and let them just sit in the pan because we want to let them caramelize just a little bit. Okay, these have a little bit of color on them, so we're going to go ahead and gently add our potatoes in, and then we're going to let our potatoes sit for a little bit too. Okay, this has been about 3 or 4 minutes. These are starting to heat up and absorb a little bit of that oil. So now we're going to go ahead and put the artichoke hearts in. Okay, we need to get this flipped over, so if you can pick up the pan and flip it like I am, do that. Otherwise you're going to need to use a spatula because these potatoes can break if you use a spoon. Alright, last up we're just going to go ahead and pour these capers over, the olives, and this lemon juice, and then we're just going to let it sit for a few minutes for everything to warm through. Okay, I'm getting ready to cut up this polenta. The easiest way to do that is with a pizza roller. Now I'm going to spray it with just a little bit of cooking spray because this polenta could be a little bit sticky. Both sides. Okay, and then the reason why we use this non-stick foil is you can just lift it out and it folds down completely flat. Alright, so first we're just going to go ahead and cut it into fourths. And then I'm going to show you 4 different ways to plate your polenta. All of these configurations with the polenta use the exact same amount, 1/8 of that pan. You can choose which configuration you like the best. This is 1 large triangle. I cut the polenta into fourths and then I just cut one of those fourths in half. These are 2 smaller triangles. I've taken that first triangle and cut it in half from the point to the hypotenuse. These are in fingers. I cut one of the quarters into 4 pieces. And this is a checkerboard pattern. I cut 2 of the fingers into 3 pieces. Alright, let's give the polenta, the sausage, the sugo, and these potato artichoke hearts a taste. Oh my god, that is so good. And then oh, wonderful.